We've got all the big components in the Land Rover now. So next step is wiring it all up basically. So just at the bottom of the Land Rover here, I thought I'd better show you the high voltage wiring. You'll remember the motor high voltage connector, which has to go to the motor and then to the battery. The original cable was just slightly too short. I needed about another 20-30 centimeters. But I solved that problem by using the front motor cable, which is long enough because I've just done a big loop. So I would prefer it if I didn't have to have a big loop like that. But the challenge is I took these apart. The connectors in here are aluminium lugs and the cable is aluminium and they're sonically welded on. So I can't solder them, I can't cut these and resolder them. It's better just to have it a bit longer, and the connector's good than a bit shorter and dodgy connectors. So that's one of the two high voltage connectors. So the other high voltage wiring is that battery output, which is the heater and the air conditioning compressor. And it comes down the chassis, through there, up the chassis, up there, and into the plugs to go to the air conditioner and in there for the heater. Yeah, so that is all the high voltage wiring. So the Tesla wiring harness is actually pretty good. It's quite modular, so you have sort of a wiring harness for the front of the Tesla, the front area, which is now the engine bay, or the old engine bay. So you have a harness that goes across and goes up to VC front there, and you can see it goes in through the firewall and interfaces to VC right and VC left. I've reutilised the original Tesla grommets. They're really nice actually, so they have a plastic insert there that clips in and supports everything nicely. They're nice and soft and obviously waterproof. I found places on the firewall to put them through. In the Tesla they were sitting down a bit further, probably out and down a bit further, but obviously that's a really good spot in the Land Rover. It's pretty plug and play, the harnesses. It's just putting everything into the right plug. They can sort of only plug into one spot really. When I took the harness out, definitely useful just labelling everything as you unplug it. But when you're putting it back in, you can have a look at that and say, oh well, that goes near the brake booster, so I'll route it that way. And heated front windscreen, which I'm not going to use, but at least you sort of know roughly where it's got to go. So yeah, I've just been spending time tidying all the wiring up, routing it and cable tying it. And I've also found the Tesla uses, well, like a lot of modern cars, there's a lot of the original Tesla wiring harness clips. There's one there. Like all these little clips that hold the wiring in place, which are quite nice. I've tried to utilise them as much as possible. So you can see there's quite a lot of different clips. Some are more useful than others. I found these ones here that basically just go through a round hole. They're a couple of different sizes. I think one goes into like an M4 hole, one's like an M6 hole. Some have the cable tie bit built in, and obviously when you take it off, you're cutting it off. But you can still use them. You can take off the old cable tie, just cut all that off, and you can still insert another cable tie through there and still use it. These ones just had a loose cable tie through, so you can still use them. You got other ones that are designed to mount onto a bolt head. You've got these oblong type ones, which are harder to drill a hole for. You sort of need an oblong hole. I guess they're better in that they locate things better, so it doesn't twist that way. And then you've got sort of these other ones here that are designed to clip into, an edge. I've tried to use them as much as possible, and so that's the time-consuming a bit about the wiring harness. It's quite easy just to route and plug in, and it's worked quite well. But I've just spent quite a lot of time just making the harness tidy and as nice as possible. There's a couple of earthing points. I need to make sure it's got good earthing points. I've put some nutserts and made sure it's got good contact. I'm starting to plug the small componentry in. These are the crash sensors. Got the horns are mounted in here. Would have been easier to mount them in here, but I want to save this for front room. These are my headlight modules, which I've mounted up here on each side, and they have wires going through to the my new high voltage headlights and indicators, because they're now running at about 31 volts. The thing too is, like, so there's certain things that have to be mounted in a certain spot which will determine where I'm routing the harness. The main determinant of where that ran is this radar, because this usually runs up higher here, but I needed to get as much length to bring this radar out further, because obviously I can't have it sitting back here because it's not going to work if it's behind the bull bar. So the radar, I've actually used the original plastic mount here and even the original metal frame that it mounted on in the Tesla, but that sits there pretty well. I will put a cover over that. So I got the fireman's loop in similar position to what it was, and then yeah, the washer bottle I've ended up mounting down here. In the Tesla it used to mount a bit higher up here, but I'm trying to make as much front room as I can, and it's sort of fitted down here nicely. So I've got a pickup screw there, and then another one through, there's another little tab down there that I've got it secured at the bottom there. May modify this to sit somewhere else. This is a removable bit with an O-ring in it, and then yeah, I can just I've just picked up on the this is the Land Rover washer pipe that's now attached to the Tesla one, which has a nice union there to join to. The other thing I've done to make the wiring harness a bit easier to deal with, because it's so modular, I've separated it into all the different modules. Like, this is the front drive unit, wiring harness, the center console, tailgate, you know, rear bumper for the ultrasonics. That goes to the left-hand C pillar. Just it's a front ultrasonics. Just yeah, it just sort of makes it a bit easier to deal with, and when you need a bit, you can just go and get it. The biggest sections of wiring harness are basically, they have one on the right-hand side that go from VC right down the side of the car and pick up on, you know, the cameras that will sit up here and go back to the tail lights on this side, on both sides, and then pick up on the RCM module in the middle. So they're the main ones. So you can see here I've got the front engine bay wiring harness coming through, and they attach to VC right here, which is mounted up in here. I couldn't mount this down here, there's not enough room. So yeah, it's worked out quite well mounting it up here. It's in pretty much the same position, so the wires reach. The harnesses that go down the right and left of the Tesla, I realised it's sort of hard. It doesn't work running the harness along the side of the seal here, because there's sort of not really any cavity or anything to put it in. So I've actually decided to run it down the middle, which works really well. I mean, obviously this is all going to be covered when I've trimmed the HVAC and everything. So I've plugged the right hand harness in, and it goes through, and it's the main feed from the PCS and other bits and pieces, and brought it back here. It goes through into the RCM module. I'll probably have to put a grommet, nice big grommet through here, I think, to put the harness through, because this obviously goes back to the PCS to charge the 12 volt, and then there's the battery logic, high voltage controller logic, and then yeah, this usually just goes down the right hand side of the vehicle to the radio module, subwoofer, tail light, speakers, that sort of thing, rear seats. The left hand one does basically the same thing. It's got the charge port wiring in there. It's sort of a case, I'm sort of starting at the front, plugging it in at the front, and then routing it and working backwards to tidy it up as I go. So you can see where I've mounted the main computers is VC left. This is the autopilot and the main MCU. This is sort of important where it mounts a bit, in that it has to interface with it actually interfaces through the firewall and picks up on the coolant lines. So interfaces there with a waterproof junction there and the coolant lines. I'll probably have to take all these supports off and then sort of clean it up as best I can. I'm having to loop, some are a bit too long, so I'm having to put them in a loop, like these door harness ones. So usually what runs into the door as well, and then up into the mirrors of the Tesla, are the antennas for the
the cellular and Wi-Fi antennas. So I've mounted them up in the middle of the windscreen where they're not going to affect my view because they're behind the screen. So yeah, I sort of just got to clean all that up and then modify the original Land Rover dash to enclose all that really, which I've started to do, and it should work okay, I think. So as far as modifying this wiring harness at all, so far I've had to do very little. It's pretty much been plug and play. Other than, that's the reason that's all apart is because I have had to lengthen the charge port, one wire from the charge port that goes to the motor inverter, because the motor's sitting in the middle of the car now, not at the back. So far that's the only wire I've had to lengthen, although I'm not sure yet if this wiring harness is going to have enough length to get back to the charge port ECU and the tail light yet, but I'll work that out when I get to it. LCD's all mounted, it's good to have in there. I've had to use alloy brackets off this, worked quite well though, and then used the original Tesla brackets, cut them down and bolted them in here. I've also used the original shroud, because it's got a little plate back here that holds the interior temperature sensor, and then I've ground a little entry hole there for the wires, because these wires, obviously this usually sits more up here and they come in through the back, but now because this is so much further forward I've had to modify that a bit, but that worked fine. And yeah, I've got my what do you call it, windscreen module, which is the three cameras, three main autopilot cameras, selfie camera, the GPS in there and the rain sensors. And yeah, the wiring for that goes across here and then comes down here and comes into the main wiring harness. I've also got my new roof console in. I've had a roof console for a while, but I've rebuilt it to what I think is a nicer made thing. It's a lighter weight aluminium thing, but I've incorporated, I'm going full Tesla integration here, aren't I? I've got the Tesla sun visors even. I actually prefer them than the Land Rover ones. They come out and extend, and you got your vanity mirror with a light, which is all hooked up. The speakers that sit in the Tesla, they usually sit up in the top of the A pillar. Those speakers are in, and these are going to be my on-off controls for the Tesla, which are imitating the door, the exterior door switch and the seat occupancy sensor. I've got the Tesla center lights and hazard things, and there's a microphone in here for the Bluetooth. The rear lights, which sit in the rear of the Tesla. This is sacrilege, isn't it? This is a Nissan Leaf sunglass holder. It's a bit sacrilege, I know, but it's actually a pretty beefy old sunglass holder, that one, so that's useful. And then yeah, I've got storage up in here, which is useful. Okay, it's secured in there. I'll just plug in. Got to put the ring the right way. Done. The main modifications, if anything, I'm doing to the harness is having to unwrap them to get certain things to where I want them to be. So this is a good example here. This harness is not sitting exactly where it used to because the way the HVAC unit is sitting, but this right hand wave vent usually goes here, and if I'm going to put it in, it's going to be over here somewhere if I can get it in. So I'm just unwrapping it here just to bring it back so I can get more length, so I can put this plug in here somewhere. And I sort of had to do the same thing with the ABS module because it's sitting at a slightly different spot. These are for the seat heaters. So yeah, I've sort of separated them out as well. One thing I'm realizing I'm going to have to take note of is I need access to this bit here. This is where the HEPA filters live, and need to change them at some stage. Yeah, so I need to make it so I can, bring that forward like there to change the HEPA filters. This is for the speaker, which usually goes up onto the dash of the Tesla, but I think I'm going to mount it in the original dashboard of the Land Rover. Anyway, so I've got that looking a lot more organised. I've got the thing for the door there that I'll try and incorporate into the bottom of the dash. I've got to find the little plastic insert for that. So the wiring rubber thing comes out here of the door and it goes in here, and this is the plastic bit that I need, so I'll take this out and yeah, I want to reuse that. Yeah, we've got the bottom of the Land Rover dash here, and obviously the middle part sort of not, I can't really fit it in anymore because I've got a big HVAC unit there. That's okay. So I've just measured and sort of cut this end bit off for the driver's side. Oh, and I've also had to just relieve the metal and foam from that corner. You're getting the idea there. It's going to sit up there and hide all those wires. Looking a bit neater now. Got all the steering wheel controls in and the steering column thing. Got my speaker mount. I'm just printing a speaker cover, just a quick 3D printed design. Not 100% sure what I'm going to do here yet. I'll probably put an LCD screen here for displaying all nerd information. This works out pretty well, doesn't it? Like, that looks like it's supposed to be there. The only thing is, I feel like I sort of need just a bit of trim for around here, because that looks a bit funny. That's okay. Just whipped up a quick 3D print speaker cover. God, 3D printers can be useful. And there it is, screwed into place. I really like that, actually. I've tidied these up enough, and now I'm going to start refitting the Land Rover dash across here. Okay, just put that up in there. But that corner bit's in. Had to take this whole corner, the metal bit is cut out, so the foam and trim's still there. Had to cut the whole, there's a plate that goes through here usually, but I've got to cut all of that out to clear all this stuff. I'm utilising the thing through here that the wiper motor used to go through. So now I've got to do this side. So I've cut this bit out of the dash over there because I can't really use much more because there's so much stuff in there. So yeah, this will sort of go up in here. I think I'm going to have to take off all of this bit of metal under here too, and I can leave the foam and the trim just to get around the computer here. And this is sort of fitted through, and got my speaker and cover in there, and that's a light, footwell light, so I'll probably, that's the old footwell duct from the Land Rover, so I'll make something up to put the light in there. So I think I'm now going to look at attaching the rear drive unit harness in. So yeah, got the logic plugged in, and then yeah, wiring harness has to go over the top of the motor up here, and then comes out here for the encoder and the oil pump, the other wheel speed sensor and the height sensor. Yeah, I might unwrap this because this is totally in a useless position. Yeah, so I realise this goes on the rear left suspension arm of the Tesla. For some reason I thought it went on rear right, but yeah. So both the height sensors go on the left-hand side of the car. So, and it works out okay because the wires for this I've just brought them right back, unwrapped it, and they come to the left-hand main wiring connection. So that gives me heaps of room. Where it picks up on the main harness is going to be important as to where I route the main harness. I can see here now the pickups for the main harness, this side and this side, because the problem is usually on the subframe they're sort of right back here. So now I know that they come out a lot further forward. I can manipulate, hopefully, these harnesses to make sure that this comes out at the right spot, and this one here, because they pass to the outside of the vehicle through this grommet. So now I know that they're right up there. This needs to go pass out and make sure it reaches up there, and up there. I think I've decided most of this wiring harness is going to go exterior via this grommet here. Realised that I think the best place to take it out, probably just here. Cut in, so yeah, exactly 60 millimeters. 57 millimeters. Why is it that I never have the exact size hole saw? I always have to do it a bit smaller and then file it out. Anyway, first world problems. And also too, the one I'm always needing to use is always blunt. There we go. 57 millimeter drilled hole, filed out to 60. I've got to pass the charge port ECU plug through this grommet, as well as the rear tail light plug. Charge port ECU managed to do no problem. Just sort of taped it close to the harness. Just used a bit of silicone spray, a bit of lube, and it pulled through quite easily. That one's a bit bigger. Come on, baby. Oh, she's tight. Come on, baby. Oh, might have got it. Come on. Yes, come on. Oh, it's like giving birth. So now I'm going to have to unwrap the harness back a fair way so that all those wires can stay inside and that grommet can come up and sit here somewhere. And there we go. Oh, that's actually really satisfying. That's a really nice grommet. I like that a lot. So I got all the outside wires going through that grommet. Just checking lengths if things are going to reach to their spots. Electronic park brake has heaps of length, so that's good. Rear bumper module, that's got heaps of length and it doesn't matter too much. Tail light plug, yep, heaps of length. But the charge port, or the charge port ECU plug, not quite long enough. Just cut it off the main harness. It's always, I hate cutting wires anyway. I've cut them, I've staggered cut them so that all the joins aren't going to be lined up. I like that idea because even if the heat shrink comes off or fails in some way, it's not actually going to matter. Soldered the wire extensions onto the charge port ECU. Charge port is all buttoned up and ready for action. Just back at my donor car, just looking at, I think they call this the bumper module. Just looking at how I mount this. This isn't actually the trailer controller, I don't think. I actually don't know what this is. But just a mental note. Looking at these, there's a whole lot of, I think they're M10s, 10 nuts there. Actually, there's heaps of them. Because nuts on a Tesla are super rare. You usually get good bolt supply out of it, but nuts are quite rare. So I didn't end up using this to mount it. I mean, it's just a nutsert with a couple of holes. It's not that fancy. So I just put my own nutsert in here. And yeah, that's a good spot for it. Positive and ground, 12 volt. And it's got a blue and a green communication, I guess. Unless it's like some sort of Bluetooth sensor so that if you're at the back of the car it knows. I don't know. I should look it up. So it's a blue and green. I should look up wiring diagram. Right, yeah, worked it out. BLE rear, so Bluetooth, low energy rear. You can see it's got the twisted pair, which are blue and green, and a red for power, and then a black ground. So yeah, it's got 3 Bluetooth pickups here, one for the right B pillar and left B pillar. So they go in the side bits here, just below the camera, so that's these here. Yeah, so obviously they're used, you know how you use your phone as the key. It gets the Bluetooth signal from one of these. It knows where the signal is strongest. So this is the driver's side. So I think if the signal's stronger here, because there might be a couple of you with your phones that are both paired to the car, but it'll prioritise, I presume this is what it does, it'll prioritise the one closest to this one, the driver, obviously. because it'll load the profile of the person that unlocks it. So whoever gets to this area first and unlocks the car or gets in the car, that's the profile it chooses. That's why it works so well. And obviously it's got one for the bumper, because, you know, if the car's locked and everything, you need to access the car. So it's just in here. It knows, it can sense the Bluetooth here. So with my Bluetooth module mounted, and that's everything for the left-hand harness external. I made a good grounding point with a nutsert here for trailer controller and ECU ground and tail light ground. So everything's rewrapped, tidied up. Oh, and I've mounted the rear height controller. I had to have a look at Evie over there to work out where sort of a rough level spot was, and I mean they're not going to be 100% accurate until I've got the car adjusted on the ground, obviously. Another ground point there, very important to get the grounds right, I reckon. Fairly time consuming getting all the wiring all tidied up. It's worth doing though, like you sort of want it sitting nice, and it's very easy to start a certain section and mostly finish it and then go, well, now I'm going to do that because it's more fun. But it's been really good just finishing everything 100%. Wasn't happy with the welds on the motor mounts. I think they were strong enough, but they didn't look that great. And when I got the engineer to look at this, I want them to look really good, because then he goes, oh, well, yeah, that's good quality. The rest of it will probably be good quality too. So the problem was, like, so my welder, it's a gasless welder, and yeah, and I'm not the best welder as well, is part of the problem. So anyway, I took them off and took them down to my friend down the road, Saint. Yeah, just went over them all and made them re-welded over the top. They're definitely going to be really strong now, so yeah, just one other little thing. Progressing with installing the right-hand harness. So I've had to unwrap it all. Got the 12 volt outlet from the PCS through to there, through a big grommet. And I had to put a separate grommet for the battery logic plug over there, just to get it long enough. And then some wires are too long, so they're sort of coiled up in here. Got the fireman's loop here, that's sort of where it reached to, so that's where it goes. Yeah, and then they go through another grommet, same sort of grommet, basically exactly the same grommet as on the other side. Then yeah, coming down here, and this bit of harness comes to the plug here, and this goes through around to the top of the motor, to the back of the car. I've got to get tail lights, and this one's got rear view camera, etc. Oh, that's the offshoot for the electronic park brake. And yeah, it just comes along the bottom here, still using the securing clips where possible. That's the plug for the tailgate harness. There's two there, one's for the rear view camera, one's the tailgate, as in number plate lights, boot release switch, latch mechanism, etc. So they're going to come up where basically the same spot the Land Rover had. You can see the Land Rover wires just came up the side here, so I'll do the same with these. I'll use some conduit and protect it, obviously, and it comes through a grommet there. I'll redo that to a better grommet. All this does is the number plate light, but I'll put all the camera and number plate lights, etc. up in there. These lights here are in the tailgate and these are on the body, so they're sort of in separate harnesses in the Tesla, whereas all my lights are here. So I've had to separate these out. Just soldered on a thick ground wire and added this right-hand reverse light wire. And so this thick one will go up, and I'll splice it into all these to ground all these bits. So that's all finished. Got the centre grounding point where everything grounds at the back. All the right-hand exterior harness is done. Still got to do basically Just got to finish the interior wiring now. The PCS output, the 12 volt output. So that one's the ground. This will come across to ground the logic high voltage controller. That's what that's for, and it's also a safety thing. So to take this cover off, I have to disconnect that, which means that it's a bit like an interlock in a way. The contactors can't be closed, so it's a safety thing. But I need to sort out a good ground for that. That's the original one. Obviously it doesn't fit, and this just went down to the chassis. That's not going to work anymore. Just digging through all my spare bits of stuff that I had left over from taking the battery apart and reconfiguring it. So this is one of the bus bars that goes in the battery. But I reckon I can use this. It's definitely thick enough. It's definitely got the beefiness to it. So I'm sort of thinking modify the end here and mounting that, having it come across there, and yeah, I'll just nut-insert it onto the back of the firewall because I want it to clear the lid, so I don't have to detach it when I take the lid on and off. So yeah, I think I'm going to give that a go. Job done. Actually very happy with how that turned out too. So I've modified this, brought the hole back a bit so that this is closer that way, put a little nutsert in for the grounding for the high voltage controller, and then got it double bolted, so I want a good ground there. Cleaned all the paint off there. The good thing about this car is this is aluminium, so it's not going to rust, and so that'll give a good conduction this side. But check out how well that bus bar fits. I didn't put this curve in here. That was the natural curve, and it's basically curved at the exact spot I wanted it to. So that is perfect, because I've got a frame that goes in here, so it needed to come down to clear the frame, and so having it here, it's cleared the top of the battery case, so I don't have to remove this to take the battery case off. So I'm really happy with that, actually. Very happy. Just about to mount the radio module. Terrible videoing, isn't it? It's pretty dark in here. So I found a good spot for it, which is just here. I'll need to make a different antenna if I want to get good reception. Got the TPMS receiver, just double-sided tape there. Okay, the audio amplifier. I'm going to have to cut this bracket off. Made it flat because this is going to sit against the aluminium side of the Land Rover, so do a bit of heat sinking, I don't know. Bent these tabs back, sort of ground them back. Same with here. Yeah, so I'm going to just cut that off. Due to wire lengths and placement, I've decided to mount it here. That's where it'll sit. So there it is mounted, nice and snug, and then I'll just plug these into the bottom and we're all done. I'm just trimming out in the back here, putting these panels in. I haven't done this side yet. That's how it used to be, just carpet on there. I'm going to leave that there for insulation, and that's the subwoofer now, heavily cut down. See how I've just cut a bit off it to shape to that corner. It sort of sits up there out of the way, and yeah, 3D printed a grill for it. You can see why I couldn't really use the original subwoofer enclosure. Sort of time consuming doing all the lining here, but literally the only reason I'm sort of doing it at the moment is because I need to put the speaker somewhere. You know what? I think it's time to turn it on. I think I've done enough, and I just want to turn it on. Can't drive it yet because Camille's not here, and I said I'd wait until she got back. But I think it's okay to turn it on because she's not back for ages, so I sort of can't wait. I think I heard some clicks. Did I?